This video is here to support you with lesson 42 of the 6th grade Excel curriculum, which is building on yesterday's lesson of comparing fractions. You are starting with 5 minutes of fluency around division facts. As you are lapping, pay attention to how students are doing with their 6s, 7s, 8s, and 9s. And those are the problems that you want to review. And you will be able to determine what to review based on where students struggle the most. And then you will jump into comparing fractions. The first problem has students comparing 3/5 to 7/10 using the same a strategy that they used yesterday, which is finding a common denominator and writing equivalent fractions. So this would be a good test to see what students remember from yesterday's lesson. As you jump into the discussion question, you notice that it's not asking students for an answer, but it's asking them to recall the steps for finding a common denominator. So this will be a great check for understanding to see if students can really articulate the steps in finding the least common denominator. As you jump into the next example, this is giving students another strategy for comparing fractions. Here, they are finding a common numerator, which is a different skill and not one that students are pushed to use very often. So in looking at the numerators, we have 4 and 2. Because 4 is a multiple of 2, 4 is being used as the common numerator. So they're now going to write each fraction with a numerator of 4. We already have 4/6, so we're going to write 2/5 as a numerator of 4 by multiplying both the numerator and denominator by 2. Remind students that as you are writing equivalent fractions, the numerator and denominator have to be multiplied by the same number. Now we can compare numerators. Now we can compare the fractions by comparing the denominators. And so students need to ask themselves, are 6ths or 10ths larger? And it's probably going to be helpful to have a model here, a fraction model. So draw a fraction model for students to help them see which is better, which is bigger. Just going to rewrite this one more time so that you can see the word fraction. Conceptually, it's going to be a little challenging for students to visualize a 6 and a 10th to determine which is bigger. So a great strategy there is to draw a model. And then they'll be able to see that 6ths are in fact larger than 10ths, making 4/6 larger than 4/10. Then they can use an exact fraction model to compare the original fractions to confirm their answer. In the Try It, students now have a bank of strategies that they can use to compare fractions. And you want to remind them of those. They can find the least common denominator. They can draw a model. They can use benchmarks. Or they can compare numerators. So allow students to use the strategy that they feel most comfortable with in order to find the answer. Obviously, the most efficient strategy will likely be finding the least common denominator. But for a student, some might draw models faster, some might be able to use benchmarks, so allow them to choose the strategy that works best for them so that they can jump into the practice. You might want to give students scratch paper so that you can see their thinking as they're comparing each fraction because they don't have a ton of space here. This lesson ends with a pretty rigorous critical thinking around ordering fractions. You want to make sure there are a number of practice problems here that students demonstrate mastery within the practice problems first, and that you do some significant review before pushing students into the fun practice.